And then there were two. Welcome back. This is Yankees Unloaded. We are excited as hell to bring you a week of preparation as we get ready for the World Series. It's Yankees, it's Dodgers. It's the best thing that the MLB could have had. I think the dividends that this thing is going to pay, it's just going to be huge for this sport. If you were rooting for this sport and you're constantly hearing that it's dying, and I made a joke about this, obviously off air, this is the World Series you want. And I'm going to preface it by saying this, okay? I heard a lot when the Rangers and Diamondbacks were in the World Series. Now, this is a World Series I can get behind. And that same person, I guarantee you, did not watch a lick of it. So, look, people like those underdog stories, but they don't like them enough to watch. The Yankees and the Dodgers are iconic. The Yankees lead the series 8-3 in 11 World Series, but we haven't seen it since 1981. So anyone telling you, oh, I'm so tired of the same old thing. Well, what same old thing? Hasn't happened since 1981. So
yeah, that is kind of the narrative, right?
Yeah. You've been seeing it too, right? Like, oh, here we go again. The big market teams. I'm like, well, here we go again. I mean, what? Like, really? I was like negative 14 last time these two played.
Even when the major markets sign a big-time player, right? You get Ohtani going to the Dodgers, and people say, well, here we go again. You can just chalk them up for 3 or 4 World Series championships. It's still a huge accomplishment to get to this point. I mean, let's be real. The Yankees, they went out and got Garrett Cole. We obviously picked up Giancarlo Stanton, right? Nobody expected us to make that move. We traded for Juan Soto, and yet it was still really hard to get to this point. So, yeah, I completely agree. That's not the way baseball works. It's sort of like the NHL, where this is one of the harder sports to actually do anything, right? You can go 15 years with a really good team and yet not win a World Series title. The Dodgers, as good as they've been the last decade, they've won one time. And I like to poke fun of it, but at the same time, I give them credit. They won a World Series in the short season, and you would think they would have won more. You really would. So I believe Shohei Ohtani is a Dodger at this point to win one title, and then they go from there. But the Yankees are trying to do the same thing. We're going to have to go out there and take it. In my opinion, I don't believe the Dodgers have a ton of starting pitching. I've talked about this in terms of this matchup. The Yankees are going to have to get after this starting rotation, and we're going to have a deeper dive into what they're deploying, because you're talking about Yamamoto, those splits, home and road, completely different, right? He is a wildly different pitcher on the road, spectacular, not so much at home. And with a long break, perhaps game 1 and 2 is one of the games the Yankees should be penciling in to go win. So there's a lot of series to be played. I'm excited. I know our whole chat is excited, and people are saying, what do the kids say? It's rigged, right? If the Yankees and Dodgers get to the World Series. So it's a good thing. When everyone's saying that, that means you got the, what is it, like a Chiefs matchup, right?
Oh, yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, Taylor Swift. When people are talking about the matchup being redundant or overdone, that means it's a good one.
Well, I think the real big storyline going into this is that no one really set themselves apart this year. We've talked about that at length, ad nauseum. Like,
right.
Nobody in this league, and we are Yankees podcasters, and we could easily say the Yankees are the best team, and I do believe the Yankees are the best team, and I'm pretty sure you do as well. But the reality is the Yankees are an elite team all time. All time, this is not one of the greatest World Series appearing teams ever. However, Gary, I think this has the makings of being an absolute instant classic of a World Series. I do. I think it's also kind of funny looking back at their history. There hasn't been, so the last 4 times these teams have played in the World Series, there hasn't been a game 7. Is that wild?
Really?
Yes, there has not been a game 7 since 1956. Crazy, right?
By the way, I see Weasel in the chat. I am almost certain I saw him wearing a Yankees jersey at church this morning. I'm not kidding. This is the weirdest thing ever. I think it may be him. So Weasel, let me know if that was you. And by the way, you have to remember the theater, because this is a good thing. Baseball doesn't usually work out this way. There's usually a Cinderella story and then a team that's probably much more deserving to be there. Either Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge are becoming a World Series champion. Do we realize this?
That's a good thing for baseball.
That's right. It's amazing for baseball. And is it fair to say whoever wins this World Series should be considered the face of baseball between Ohtani and Judge? Because Judge, in my opinion, based on what Ohtani's done so far this postseason, nobody on base, he's been ho-hum, right? Nothing spectacular. But what he's been with guys in scoring position or guys on base, do you realize he's hitting 818 this postseason? 818. It's absurd. Those are video game numbers. And when guys are on base and you're doing that type of damage, yeah, you deserve a ton of credit. But we're going to see what he looks like at Yankee Stadium in a World Series. This is a different stage. Now, they absolutely have the capabilities of playing well, but no one knows how everyone's going to respond. How does Carlos Rodon, who's pitched well as his seasons have gone on as a Yankee at home, what's that going to look like at Yankee Stadium in a World Series format? We don't know, right? So it's interesting. There's a lot to gain. There's a lot to lose, but that means we're a part of it, and it's the first time in 15 years, so we'll take it.
Yes, we will. We will definitely take it. The first 2 games, for those of you who are wondering, are going to be at Dodger Stadium. The next 3, of course, are at Yankee Stadium, and the last 2 are at Dodger Stadium. So the 2-3-2, we already know that. So if the Yankees want to celebrate a World Series win in New York, theoretically, they have to win 4-1. Now, that's not easy to do. I don't think they're going to be doing that. I think this is a 6-game series. I do think the Yankees are going to win the World Series. Here's the thing. And we talked about this with the Mets. The Dodgers, in a way, are a good matchup for the Yankees. The reason being, and this is a real big reason, the Yankees, quite honestly, can destroy right-handed pitching. We've seen it. But as soon as a lefty comes out, they forget how to hit. I don't know what it is. They forget how to hit. How many lefties are on this team? It's
0
not
in the starting 0, exactly 0 in their starting rotation, which, by the way, Dave Roberts can get creative and maybe go to a lefty opener, force the Yankees' hand. But I will say this, when a team's going with an opener, they're usually telling you we're not going 4 or 5 innings with this guy. It's likely 1 or 2 max. So the Yankees, in my opinion, this shouldn't be rocket science, what you do with these lineups. We've talked about it on this podcast. The Yankees have done too much. Aaron Boone has done way too much. He's overthought his lineups when he's got lefties out there, and they're trying to, bring out hitters, and let's bring a righty out here to face. Let's bring a lefty here to face. Put your best hitter out there, Jake. Give us your best hitter. It's not that complex. If you like Anthony Rizzo and the bat he's swinging, and rightfully so, does it really matter if he's facing a lefty? Just let the hot bat hit. That's the way this works. If Giancarlo Stanton is raking, and obviously we know what he does against left-handed pitching. It's well documented. This is a future, more than likely a Hall of Famer in what he's done of late. He loves facing lefties. Am I going to sit him down or think about sitting him down because we're facing a righty? Absolutely not. Don't overthink it. Your best players. But this situation, Yamamoto, Jack Flaherty, Walker Buehler, Landon Knack, 4 right-handers. Not one of these right-handers outside of Flaherty has gone over 7 innings in any start. That means something. We saw Cleveland early in this series, and I told you, Jake, I'm going to mention it again. We didn't see length right from the get-go from their ace. And I said, this is a smart play in the short term, but it will catch up with you, especially when we go back to Cleveland. The Dodgers are going to run into that same issue. Now, of course, they've got bats that can out-hit that problem, and we're going to see if they can do that. But the Yankees have some pitching as well that's going to make that difficult. So this is a great series. I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people are anticipating. I'm going to go, there's going to be a Game 7 in Dodger Stadium, and I believe, well, when you're talking about how Yankees fans are going to travel for that game, it's not going to be easy for LA. And I believe in general, Garrett Cole might come out on short rest. You might see a Rodon appearance in that game. It's going to be all hands on deck, a fun series.
Yes. And I hope it is, even if obviously all I care about is the Yankees winning the World Series. But a sweep would be kind of, on either side, definitely wouldn't be, what was advertised, if you will. But at the same time, they just went 4-1 against the Guardians. And 3 of those games felt like neck and neck World Series matchup. You know what I mean? So I don't really think however many games it goes to is truly indicative of how the series went. Also, you could have 4 games that all come down to the wire, and that's just the way it is. But yeah, we do know that there's going to, if they get to game 6, it's going to end in November, which I found very fascinating. There's only one lefty on their roster, by the way. Only one lefty pitcher. It's Anthony Bonda, who pitched tonight. They only have one lefty. It's
you're
all
talking about
righties.
Kopech, Phillips, Hudson, Trinan, Banda. Well, Banda, he pitches, and he's a lefty. So,
yeah, he's the only lefty.
Okay. Ryan Brazier, Honeywell. We saw all of these guys. They're deploying a bullpen very similar to what Cleveland did, and it can work in a postseason, especially when guys are fresh. But guys, you have to remember this format: 2-3-2. We are playing 2 games at Dodger Stadium. If you remember, it's not the winner of the All-Star game. I know this is well documented for most people, but I want to make sure everybody is understanding this. The Los Angeles Dodgers won 98 games. We won 94 games. We are going to Dodger Stadium on the 25th of October. We're going to play game 1 and 2, and we are going to play 3 games in a row in succession at Yankee Stadium. That is going to have an impact. Length of your starting pitchers, we need it because it sets us up. You saw in the middle of that Cleveland series, this series could have gone 6 or 7 games. A couple of those games, a lot of us were expecting to lose some of those. We were, right? And we were pleasantly surprised by some timely hitting, right? Giancarlo Stanton, Juan Soto. Those games can go the other way. And when you're talking about essentially an exhausted bullpen, you can go into a 6 or 7 game series with a Cleveland team that really shouldn't have been on the same field as us. But then you go play the Dodgers, starting pitching in their innings pitch. Take a look at that length. That's going to matter. If you see Yamamoto, I actually have it written down here just so people understand exactly what we're talking about. Yamamoto, in his 2 starts against the Padres, he went 3 innings pitched, 5 innings pitched. He gave up 5 earned runs combined. But I understand a lot of people, you're going to be paying attention to the runs allowed. I mean, that's understandable, but pay attention to the length. 3 innings, 5 innings. His very next start against the Mets, a lot of people looked at it as a better start. He went 4 1/3, ladies and gentlemen. That's not length. So also, here's another thing. Flaherty was rocked. His velocity was down. Now, Dave Roberts after the game stated he was under the weather, right? How much? If Garrett Cole came out here and was throwing 92 miles an hour and Aaron Boone said he was just under the weather, it's nothing to worry about, wouldn't everybody be panicking in our comment section, and rightfully so? Of course they would, right? Yeah. It matters. If your stuff's not there, regardless of what the actual reason is, we're trying to figure it out ourselves. And you need to be right physically. Freddie Freeman didn't play today in a game to go to the World Series. So that should tell you guys where he is. Now, of course, these 4 or 5 days off in preparation for the World Series is going to help Freddie Freeman. There's no question about that. But remember, guys, when you look at a really good roster, you need to pay attention to the type of shape they're in to prepare for you, right? We're a handful as well. And Nestor Cortez, we have no update on him as well. We don't know where he's going to be, but he didn't pitch in the division series. He didn't pitch in the championship series where they projected his return. We essentially pitched and hit our way into Nestor Cortez showing up, having not worked an inning of baseball to show up to a World Series. That could have an impact. So I'm looking forward to seeing what these rosters look like. I know they have a couple days to figure it out, but it's going to get wild.
It is going to get wild. It definitely is. I think another thing I want to, have this come across here. I understand injuries suck.
Yeah.
But I really feel like injuries are a part of baseball, especially. This is a 162 game regular season. Okay.
Right.
So this is survival of the fittest. So I'm not going to sit here and feel bad if Freddie Freeman can't play or he's not because this is part of the season. Part of the season is you being an Iron Man as a team. Can you get through it? If you can't, can you make adjustments? Losing Johnny Lowe in the first game of the year sucked. We talked about
Terrible.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely sucked. But they had to find other guys to replace him. They went out and traded for Jake Cousins. They went out and they, went into their bag in the minor league system. And they're like, oh yeah, let's Like Luke Weaver, for instance, he had an opportunity, and you see what they had to do is essentially they had to adjust. And the Dodgers have adjusted too. Like they've had to do some things as well with their pitching. But the point made here is that you have to adjust. It's all part of the game. Injuries are a part of the game. And that's the same thing. And I'm going to knock on wood here, but that's the same thing if Judge goes down. This is the way it is. Like you can't just say, oh, we would have won the World Series. No, because that's literally the whole point, is that you're playing 180 plus games. And that is really like whoever wins really earned it. There's no other sport where you're playing anywhere near as many games and you really are on the brink. And that's why I just feel like the baseball playoffs, it's just different, man. You know,
what they say the best ability was again?
Availability.
Availability. That's right. Nobody cares, guys. Late guys. Nobody gives a rip. If we're missing somebody, if Aaron Judge is banged up, if Giancarlo Stanton's banged up, how sorry for the Yankees were any other team in baseball when Giancarlo Stanton wasn't available during a large portion of the regular season that impacted our playoff pursuit, that impacted seeding. Did anyone care? Right? No, they didn't. Right? We just kind of hopped into the offseason and said, okay, well, what's next? And we were having to worry about ourselves. But when you get here and you take care of business early against a Cleveland team, I know I was telling people, they're saying, well, we've got home field, right? We've got Yankee Stadium game 6, Yankee Stadium game 7. And I told you guys that is true. But remember, don't play with your food because you never know who's going to be available in the next series. And our reward, this is the best part about winning that series early, is we didn't have to find out what we're going to do without anybody because we got out relatively unscathed. We're a pretty healthy team in general. I've been pleasantly surprised in the middle of the year. Obviously, we had some injuries to our starting pitching. Garrett Cole went down early, and it was really a way for us to find out what we had in Luis Gil. Luis Gil solidified himself as a top-tier arm in this game, but we do have some young players that need to give us some performance. This is a big stage. It's not like the championship series. The World Series, Yankees-Dodgers, everyone's going to be watching this.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
It's a good thing for our podcast. There's no question about that. It's a good thing for Rob Manfred. I know he's been under the gun for a few years now, and rightfully so. But when you get Yankees-Dodgers, this is going to be a historic series that for the first time, I don't know. I think more people are rooting for the Yankees than I think you would believe, Jay. I really do. I think many people hate the Dodgers.
Well, here's the thing. Before Ohtani, I think the Dodgers eke them out. Now, I think not most of America, right? But like the majority, if you're doing a poll, the Yankees would win because this is what happens. Same thing with the Cowboys, right? People are annoyed by the Cowboys, everything. If the Cowboys went to the Super Bowl and played the Kansas City Chiefs, tell me you wouldn't be rooting for, well, you might not, but a lot of people would be rooting for the Cowboys. A lot of people.
I'd probably be rooting for Dallas. Yeah. There's no, absolutely.
I would be rooting for Dallas.
The incredibly unlikable team. And as Yankees fans, we know what's unlikable about us. We get it, right? The teams won a lot in their history. A lot of us, depending on your age, weren't alive for much of that winning, but we feel like we have this pedigree, and they've talked about this pedigree a lot, that we have championship or bust mentality, and it breeds frustration. As the years go on, you go 14 years without winning a World Series title, people are going to be frustrated. If you tell me that's your goal and you failed 14 years in a row, it's going to make us as a fan base look spoiled, right? And it's going to frustrate these other fan bases that either don't spend money, they don't win, right? They don't make a division series. They don't get through a championship series to the World Series. It makes us look bad from their perspective. So I understand why people are rooting against us. Completely understandable. And let's be clear. I love being rooted against. I love the idea of us putting on a turtleneck and people saying, I hate this team again. Because when you show up to the winter meetings and say, what does it mean to be a Yankee? Do you want to be a Yankee to some big time free agent? And you haven't won in 14 years, you haven't appeared in a World Series, we've got to be a part of series like this to call ourselves the Yankees again. And I'm glad we're back.
I agree. And I like that those are the old school turtlenecks, not just like, oh yeah, we created it based on this. No. These are the old school ones they dug up from like boxes. Did you see?
Out of storage. That thing had spider webs all over it.
Oh, Ugh. I'm glad that's not my job. Just want to, give you guys kind of an idea of what we're talking about here with these two teams, the way they are in the postseason right now. So the Yankees are really the defensive team. They're the team with better pitching. They don't score as many runs. They've had timely hitting. The Dodgers score a lot of runs. So how many? The Dodgers have scored 60. The Yankees have scored 43. The Yankees have given up 30 runs. The Dodgers have given up 42. So that's what we're looking at. It's going to be a really fun series. And I do think the scoring is going to go down for the Dodgers. I do. BC just dropped Dodgers 7.67 runs. That's not sustainable. And going up against the Yankee pitching the way they've been, I think these are going to be 4-2, 3-1 ball games. I really do. I wouldn't
So you
mind.
see this coming down into the Yankees venue per se. And how do I say this? These games are going to be played more stylistically the way the Yankees like to play. And good pitching usually beats good hitting. But I will say, we're talking about, to give the Dodgers credit, and I'm absolutely going to do that here.
Yeah.
The Dodgers have some historically great hitters. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
It's a matter of, can you match that? Are you going to go with the proper matchups? We're going to see a lot of at-bats, guys, where you're seeing Tim Hill, who's had a huge role in this postseason. A lot of us didn't really think this would be the case, but Tim Hill is going to have multiple matchups against Shohei Ohtani. Do you locate? Do you pitch as well as against the Dodgers as you did against Cleveland? That remains to be seen. Nobody's going to help these guys other than themselves. They are the Yankees. And frankly, we had a deadline that was considered lackluster, right? And it thrusts a couple players that some of us 2.5 months ago would say we're wildly uncomfortable with these certain players pitching on the big stage. Well, we didn't have this huge deadline, right? Jazz Chisholm, who hasn't hit incredibly well down the stretch here in the postseason, he needs to have some redemption offensively, but defensively he's been good. But look what they did in the bullpen. Not much, right? They didn't do much at the deadline. So now that you have that, guys like Tim Hill, Jake Cousins spun it spectacularly against Cleveland. You're going to have to see that version of him. If you want to see those games, that 4-3 you were talking about, those guys have to pitch well.
No, I hear you. And, it's kind of funny, though, because, and I'm nothing against the Mets. The Yankees just took down a bullpen that was considered historic. So that they had to get through Clase. They had to have some key hits off Clase. They had to get Gaddis came off a game the night before where he struck out the side and looked incredible. Well, Gaddis gave up the 3-run home run. And so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a team that, they might not have been the offensive firepower you were hoping for, but I'll tell you right now, I think that this is a team that can turn it on, but I think they have one thing that is the most important thing in October and November. It's pitching. And they're going to be getting the exact opposite of the Dodgers. Dodgers aren't going to get back Glass now. Dodgers aren't going to get back Kershaw, right? These guys are done. They're done for the year. There's another guy that's done that I'm totally blanking on. But the Yankees...
Well, they're not getting a Nestor Cortez.
Yankees are getting Nestor Cortez back.
I guess technically, to be fair, we have no idea what's happening with Nestor Cortez, but our pitching looked pretty good, right? Looked good without him. Luis Gil was seen as an addition. He didn't pitch in the division series. So this team does have pitching. Despite what everyone told you, a lot of what we were saying about this team's pitching prior to the postseason starting was, what is this team doing to close games? 2.5 months ago, we just wanted to know who's pitching the ninth. Who do you guys have? Who can you rely on? Weaver was a player that I know, Jake, your dad brought up some of his numbers in the ninth inning, and that's a good thing. A lot of times when you're trying to find a closer, the Yes Network was saying the ninth inning's not for everybody. You got to have some balls. You got to have the heart to pitch in the ninth inning, and that is true. You watch Luke Weaver, and you see a player that's not afraid. Ball hit back to him in the ninth inning. He's firing it to second base for a double play. He's not afraid at all. We found our closer, right? So that matters. So when you don't go do things at the deadline, sometimes a player just falls in your lap that's already on your roster. Didn't expect that at all, but that's baseball for you.
Yeah, it is. And, the good thing is the Yankees take care of business early on, and because they didn't extend the series, well, now I think that extra time pretty much guarantees Nestor's going to make this roster, in my opinion. Like, I think.
Can I ask you a question about him specifically? Because I want to know your opinion on this. Nestor Cortes. Now, we have to remember, this is a pitcher that obviously commands a premium for him. He's trying to hit location, and some of the better hitters in that lineup for the Dodgers, it's specifically Shohei Ohtani, are left-handed. Do you bring Nestor Cortes potentially out as a spot reliever in this series to where you can pick his spots when you want him to pitch, or do you put him back in that starting rotation?
I'm starting him because I think that is the advantage the Yankees have. I mean, let's be honest here. They have Garrett Cole. They have Luis Gil. They have Nestor Cortes. They have Clark Schmidt. They have Carlos Rodon. They even have Marcus Stroman. They have a full starting rotation. And I'm not saying I would go with Strowman, but this is the advantage they have. This is truly the advantage they have, and it matters. And say what you will about Strowman, but Strowman is pitching if anything goes catastrophic. Like if they have a serious injury, they're not doing a bullpen game. Maybe they are, but it'll start with Strowman. That we can make fun of him all we want, and you and I, we had a really bad experience with Marcus Stroman. But to be fair, and I don't think we've been fair about him in a sense, and here's why. He did not know he was pitching until right before the game. Right before the game. Yeah,
that's not fair to anybody. If there's a freak injury just before the game and they're saying, hey, yeah, this guy's going to be out 3 weeks, go grab a ball and get warmed up. That's not the usual preparation Marcus Stroman's used to. So it made sense why he got shelled. Maybe not to that degree, but we've got Jeff J here with the super chat. He says, we have better starters and a better bullpen. The Dodgers have 2 pitchers and a meh bullpen. Now, Yanks in 6. Jeff J, let me say this about the Dodgers bullpen.
I kind of like their bullpen.
I think their bullpen is very good. I think it is excellent. But remember, a bullpen is only as good as their starting pitching allows them to be. If your starters are traditionally going 4 or 5 innings and you're looking out in the bullpen saying, all right, guys, what are you doing from the 5th to the 9th inning in a 7-game series? You can't hide. That's a long series to play it that way. Now, it's worked for the Dodgers before. It worked in this last series. They didn't get a ton of length, and they just outswung that problem. That's part of the positive side of having 3 or 4 Hall of Famers on the offensive side of the ball. It matters, right? But can the Yankees mitigate what the Dodgers are doing offensively enough to put pressure on the Dodgers bullpen, forcing them to be perfect 5 or 6 games in a row? That's a lot to ask from a bullpen. Now, it can absolutely work. The Dodgers are a great team. I think better than what people are giving it credit for. I believe the Yankees are a more well-rounded organization. They're just not as good of an offense, okay? We need to drive in runs in important situations, right? Runners in scoring position, what you guys saw in this last series we just won, we were not good enough with runners in scoring position. We hit a lot of home runs, key home runs, but we've got to be better. Man on second and third, less than 2 outs, we need to get a ball out to the outfield. We need to run the bases much better in this series. If you guys think we're getting picked off 5 times in 2 games and we're going to walk away 1-1, I'm here to tell you guys we're not. We need to play smarter baseball. I'm not here to tell you guys the Yankees are just going to show up, play like they did in that Cleveland series, and just march on to a World Series. I believe the Yankees need to play better. I do. I think you're playing a very dangerous game, playing that brand of baseball. It was very exciting in the end. We were huge. But what you saw in the middle there, you don't want to play that game against the Dodgers. They are a very well-rounded team.
Yeah, I like this. Jordy Cruz brought up. Just a reminder, regular season, you can't really look at that. Soto, Cole were out. DJ LeMahieu was in the lineup with an LOL. Laugh my ass off at the end because DJ LeMahieu was nowhere near the lineup. Vezia and Gratterall will be added to the bullpen for the Dodgers. Now, the question is, well, I'll just look it up, but are any of those guys left-handers?
No, Gratterall is definitely not. And also, Gratterall's dealt with injuries all year. Now, if he's healthy enough to pitch in the World Series, then we're stoked for him. Happy for the guy to get healthy and be able to get on the big stage.
Vezia
but again,
is.
Yeah.
So he's the left-hander.
He's a left-hander.
Okay.
Correct. Now, any left-hander, I will say this about not just the Dodgers. This is any postseason baseball club. If you've got a left-handed pitcher, you should be pitching them against the Yankees. If you've watched the Yankees play baseball, you'd know they really labor against left-handed pitching. Great left-handed pitching, ho-hum left-handed pitching, and just pitching that is not even good at all. They just, for whatever reason, they'll overcomplicate their lineup, to which I've already said. They'll start putting Birdie in the lineup, and soon enough, you're looking at a team that scored 1 or 2 runs over the course of 9 or 10 innings. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it is frustrating.
If I'm the Dodgers and I've got a lefty, I'm deploying them right away. But I will tell you this, the Dodgers don't have many lefties. And that in a 7-game series is the reason why I'll tell you guys, they're not just going to be able to go bullpen game and just spin lefties all day long. They don't have very many of them. So the Yankees, they've got a tall order. You've got to score in this series. I don't believe you're going to show up against the Dodgers and think, yeah, this game's going to be 3-2. Some of them will be, because we can pitch very well. But some of these games are going to be played 8-6. We showed in our last series we can win a ball game like that. You're going to have to do that multiple times in this series, and it's just up to really 99. If he wants to play like Aaron Judge, then we've got ourselves a series, do we?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely for sure. Just want to give you guys a shout out. We hit over 1,000 viewers on Twitter and YouTube combined. And shout out Dodgers fans. You guys are showing up, and it has not been a toxic thing. I've been looking at the comments. You guys are actually trying to educate us a little bit on your team. Because, like, for instance, I was like, I don't know if Vezzy is a lefty, and they're, putting it in there, and not even like a snarky way. So I figured a title that really didn't have like the Yankees are going to win the World Series. It's more so like this has a chance to be an instant classic. Yeah, I think it's really cool. So we appreciate you guys being in here. Yankees and Dodgers fans, all are welcome, even Mets fans. I don't know why you'd be here. The furthest thing I'd be, like, if the Yankees were out, I wouldn't even be looking at a baseball. But Gary, I want to, kind of turn this thing over to the Yankees postseason roster, because I do think we have to talk about it. Because I think, first off, I don't know if I'm keeping Tim Meza on this roster. I'm just saying. Okay. I don't. I like that they picked him up. I like it was a little reclamation project, because he's shown in the past he can be dominant. He's not going to be dominant, Gary. He's not. I have not seen good things out of him in the postseason. Mark Leiter Jr., I can't even believe I'm saying this, earned a spot on this roster. He just did. He pitched his way into the spot. But the reason I bring up this roster is because, if we're being honest, you see how easy it is? Ian Hamilton goes down. He's injured. And now you just go out and you get Mark Leiter Jr. The MLB makes it very easy. I may have disagreements with the fact it's 26 instead of 40, because I feel like it should be a 40-man roster. But regardless of my disagreements, Gary, the reality is this. If a guy goes down, you can bring somebody up tomorrow, right? So that's the reality. But that also makes me kind of feel like we don't need all of these hitters. Like, why is Grisham in the, like, you know what I mean? Like, Grisham, Dominguez, I understand why he can run and everything, but like, I don't really understand Grisham's role, because he's not playing over any of these guys. They haven't used him defensively. They're not going to use him defensively, because the only way you're going to use him as a defensive substitution would be for right field, and you're not taking Juan Soto out of the game. So,
yeah, because you have to remember, in that 09 World Series, we did have Jerry Harrison Jr. was on that roster. And he was coming into left field as a defensive replacement a few times late in those World Series games, and it had an impact on the series. Maybe it didn't flip the series on its head, but I like the idea of having more guys on the field. But I think their process to forcing less players on the roster is just that you don't have anywhere to hide, right? And in general, if there is an injury or you don't get length out of your starting rotation, or a key left-handed bullpen arm goes down, it's much harder to just find replacements when you don't have like an extra 7 guys just laying around on the bullpen, right? The Yankees, quite literally, in the middle of that Cleveland series, we were all looking around going, how are we going to get outs? How are we possibly going to get outs? And Leiter Jr., the last person added to the roster, pitched 2 huge innings. That's, in my opinion, why they did that. I like it. I think it stirs the pot. Is it the best thing for a team that has depth? No, absolutely not. But it forces your hand. if you have pitching, again, that has no length whatsoever, you don't get bailed out with a 40-man roster where you can just say, well, we've got 30 guys out there in the bullpen that can kind of eat up innings. No, right? There's value in players like Marcus Stroman, who's probably going to be on this roster again. If we go down 3 or 4 runs and people are saying the Dodgers are going to run away with the series, we can throw Strowman out there. He can eat 5 innings, save the rest of what we have out there. So, yeah, I like the idea of it. I understand what you're talking about, but I'm cool with it.
Okay, so you're cool with Trent Grisham staying on the roster?
You know, some part of me thinks that Trent Grisham's on the roster. Now, obviously, he can replace someone defensively in case of an emergency, but I will say, I think he's there mainly to be a guy in that sort of in that clubhouse, someone just there. And in general, the moment's not going to be too big for him. If there's a situation in case of an emergency, I don't think Trent Grisham shows up and just plays out of character. He's just going to be what he's been, right? Which is one of those guys who has a weird swing.
We're talking about the guy who's probably going to win the whole World Series now. He's going to come in, pinch hit, Aaron Boone style. It's going to happen.
I'd be happy for him. But isn't that the player? Do you remember when we traded for this guy? You were like, what are we getting? And I told you, you're going to watch Trent Grisham and say, this dude's not touching a ball the next 2 weeks. He's looked awful. He's struck out 8 of his last 9 at bats. Very next at bat, he goes upper deck, hits a 3-run jack, and we just steal a whole game. Well, that's what he's there for. He's not there to be the Raul Ibanez of the team, but he does play well out in center field. He knows his role. That's part of the reason why he was on this team in the first place in the regular season. So, yeah, I'm not too upset about Trent Grisham. The way I see it, when you look at our roster, it's very clear what the Yankees have to do. Their starting rotation has to make an impact on this series. If they don't, which I didn't think they had enough of an impact on the last series, if they have an impact on this series, we're going to control this series. I think people are going to be very surprised at what our pitching is going to look like. But again, that's a huge if, right? Garrett Cole, who you mentioned you were worried about, right? He's not as sharp as you'd like him to be. Great 2 starts ago, but his last start, not exactly sharp. You're not going to get away with those pitches. If you're not sharp against Shohei Ohtani, that ball's going 450 dead center. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You're not hiding. You're not facing Cleveland's lineup that struggled since the break. There's levels to this, right? And we deserve to be here, right? We're a great team, and so do they. But you cannot hide. There's no day to say my pitch comm doesn't work. I don't have my slider. If you don't have your slider against any of the best teams in baseball, and I told you that Padres team, the Dodgers, right? And there were a couple of other teams I mentioned to you. Yeah, you're not showing up when you're not sharp and getting away with it, right? And Garrett Cole did in his last series. If we get the Garrett Cole we saw 2 starts ago, then we're talking about a different series. But there are a lot of question marks. And the good news here is I think this series is going to be hated enough where everyone has to watch it, right? And that's a good thing for this sport, a sport where every podcast now is an NFL podcast. We finally got baseball podcasts on the map.
Exactly, though, for real. And this puts like having the Yankees and Dodgers is only going to prop up like baseball YouTube more, baseball Twitter more. So, yeah, no, I agree with you on that. So you're keeping Grisham. I don't mind keeping Grisham. I would move Mesa out, and the reason being is somebody has to be moved out for Cortez. So I'm not moving out Leiter Jr. Gary, what has come over me? I can't believe we're here October 21st. If you told me 2 months ago, I'd be like defending Mark Leiter Jr. going to the World Series, being like, I want him on the World Series roster, I would have said, nope, there's no way. But here we are. Mesa, I would be replacing for Cortez. I doubt, unfortunately, and it sucks. I'm glad I got to see him celebrating. He looked very happy. But I really do feel for Ian Hamilton, because while injuries are part of the game, and we talked about earlier, that's more of the excuse level that we're not making excuses. That this is the game, but it still sucks, and I hate it for Ian because he worked his tail off to get back, and then of course he gets hurt again. And Gary, I just don't think the timetable doesn't really make a lot of sense. I just don't see him coming back. I really don't. I think having an injury like that, ends up being the calf tightness, I think that's worse than it actually sounds. Because the thing is, when you're talking about a pitcher, that stuff can be really bad. And I just don't think he's going to be ready.
You know, I'm going to defend Tim Meza here.
Okay.
I think I'm going to surprise you.
By the way, I don't hate it.
There's no such thing. Okay. Our chat needs to hear this. There's no such thing as hating a player because you have an opinion on how that player should be used. If you have an opinion, if you don't think a player should be on the roster, we were just asking the chat if Marcus Strowman will be on this roster. If you personally didn't think he should be on this roster, that doesn't mean you hate Marcus Strowman. It just means you don't think he should be on the roster because somebody else you think should be on it, right? Mm-hmm. And me specifically, if I'm going to answer those questions, Marcus Strowman, in my opinion, has value in this series. His job is to preserve. He is the ultimate preserver. If a starter doesn't give us length, throw Marcus Strowman out there. Problem solved, right? You throw him out there, he's going to nibble the corners. His day is widely going to be determined based on the strike zone that the umpire is giving. But I will tell you guys, Marcus Strowman in a World Series setting, usually in the regular season when he was playing very well, you're talking about a umpire that had a pitcher's strike zone, which a pitcher's strike zone literally means I'm calling pitches off the plate. Okay. Home plate umpires in the World Series, they are the highest graded umpires in the sport. Okay. Some of them slip through the cracks, but the overwhelming majority, especially the ones assigned to be home plate umpire, they don't miss calls like that. Occasionally they will, but they're not going to miss all night off the plate. Marcus Strowman is one of those guys who lives off the plate. So yeah, he's one of those guys in an emergency. You throw him for 4 innings. Great. Right. But Tim Meza, I'm looking at him and saying, okay, you're going to be one of the guys that we can throw at Shohei Ohtani. Doesn't mean it'll work, but you got to give him a lefty look. Shohei Ohtani is just one of those dudes that you have to have an answer for, right? And sometimes that answer is you're not bringing Randy Johnson out the pen. Sometimes that answer is someone that just has decent splits against lefties, right? Mark Leiter Jr., the Chicago Cubs told us for months, yeah, here's the guy you're getting. He's got really good splits against lefties. Well, maybe this is the series that we might want to find that out, right? Maybe this is the series where it materializes. I'm not going to make the prediction. These are great players. But I will tell you, if I had to give you guys an answer of who I think should or shouldn't be on this roster, Jake, you mentioned Grisham. I'm probably dialing back a position player to just throw another body out there in the bullpen, just to give us another option, because you never know which one of these guys is going to make an impact. If I told you in the Cleveland series, Leiter Jr. was going to pitch, I think half of us would have been, smoking cigarettes, Marlboros? So, but we were wrong. We were completely shocked by that and happy to be shocked and wrong. So I'm rolling with one more arm. If Meza is somebody who makes an impact suddenly in some random game 5 of this series, then spectacular. But I'm not going to roll with a player that isn't going to play ever, right? And then what's the positive side there? So yeah, I'm going more arms, especially in this series against the Dodgers, than anything else.
So you're backtracking and you're saying you will now take Trent Grisham off to keep Meza.
No, I'm saying I understand why Grisham's there. Gotcha. I'm not saying he should be there, right?
Gotcha.
I just understand the thought process, and there is value to having him on the bench. He understands his role, but that's not necessarily what I would do. I would deploy one more arm, even if that arm's not spectacular, if it's just a lefty, right?
Because that was my rationale, is that I think they should go more bullpen heavy,
correct,
than hitter heavy. And honestly, if they're going to go hitter heavy, I kind of want Duke Ellis on this roster. I really feel like, having that base runner, that speed, he's scoring from first guaranteed if anything is hitting the gap. Guaranteed. He's stealing second. He can steal third. He's very good. And I know he wasn't on it in the ALCS, but yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind him being on this roster. I think the problem is, and it's a good problem to have, the Yankees are so rock solid. Their catchers are great. I mean, Wells and Trevino, that's a really good catcher duo. We have our issues with Trevino, but Trevino's got a bat. He can come in a pinch. If, say, Wells, comes up limping or whatever, and then they, now they're hitting in the 9th inning. Trevino's been hitting well. So you do have that. Then you have Birdie, who can play first, third, left, second, short. He's kind of your utility guy. Same thing can be said about Oswaldo Cabrera, right? So that's another thing, is that Oswaldo Cabrera can also do that. He can also play left field. He can play infield, can play first, all of that. Jazz Chisholm can play third, can play second, can play outfield. Wouldn't recommend him playing in the outfield. He hasn't done it all year, but stranger things have happened in the World Series, let me tell you. Anthony Rizzo, really just a first baseman or a DH. And because they have Stanton hitting the way he is, there ain't nobody taking that DH. Gleyber Torres, he's just strictly a second baseman. Anthony Volpe, strictly a shortstop. Then your outfielders. Jason Dominguez pretty much is only going to play left field, center field, and right field. Trent Grisham, all of outfield. Judge, outfield, DH, and I believe you could give him a first base glove and he could do something over there. But
is it safe to say, by the way, that Jason Dominguez will not play in the World Series?
Not safe to say.
Not safe to say. Okay.
Because I think Jason Dominguez could come in a pinch hit situation.
Okay.
And I think Jason Dominguez could come in we've already seen him run. So I think they could use him in a pinch run situation. But I could really see a pinch hit situation. And I'll say in the 9th inning, if they don't like the bat Jazz is putting together, because he's had a rough postseason, look out for Jason Dominguez. I'm telling you right now. I think that's Dominguez,
a wild spot, dude. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but to essentially, you have a guy who was a rookie last year. He showed up in September, took the world by storm, tore his UCL, rehabbed all year, shows up the following year. We essentially said there was no room for him. Took forever to call this player up. Hurts his oblique. Battles all year. Starts hitting in the minors. You call him up. He doesn't really go off the way you were hoping. Loses a potential postseason, not roster spot, but an opportunity to play every day, which we all thought he was going to by this point. And then doesn't play in the division series. Pinch runs in the championship series. And then you pinch run him or pinch hit him in a key situation in the World Series. It's not, I'm not going to say it's malpractice, because obviously if Jazz Chisholm was swinging a bat the way you saw in the last series, any player that has an opportunity to hit is probably an upgrade in that situation. And we're talking about one at bat here, but that is crazy to bring Jason Dominguez into a situation in a potential game 5 or a game 6 of a World Series to win our 28th title. And it's down to Jason Dominguez doing something or not. I mean, that's a lot. It is. I just don't see it based on how this looks. I think with the DH spot kind of solidified, they don't really trust him defensively. I can't see him doing anything outside of pinch hitting. And even if he did, to be in a key situation the way it might be, I just don't know if that would be opportunistic for the Yankees.
Yeah, I'm saying I could see it, and I think it's, if this continues, if we're talking about Jazz is doing the same thing he did the last 2, because I think Jazz is going to have a really good series. I think it's just going to click. I really do. I said, with Wells.
Is there a reason that you feel that way, or do you just feel like he's too good of a player to play for an extended period of time at that level?
That, because the way I see it is it's not necessarily a postseason bothering him thing. I don't think the lights are too bright for Jazz. I don't. What I think is that he's just going through a slump, and unfortunately, this is not the right time to go through a slump. And the good news is, because as you continue on in the playoffs, you'll be like, where'd this guy come from? He was awful in the first 2 series. That's baseball. Don't forget, guys have bad 8-game stretches, and then that 8-game, well, guess what? The World Series, when you get to the World Series, that stretch is over. So, I really do think Jazz is going to turn it around. I found this really fascinating, by the way, Gary. So I'm on Baseball Savant right now, and they have a game preview, which is awesome. And they have all the exit velos. Wouldn't you believe that the average exit velo, so guys that are over 90, there are only, let's see, there are 7. Okay, there are 8. No, 7. There are 7 guys over 90. Well, let's just say 94. There are 4 guys over 94. Can you guess the 4?
Okay. So we're going to go Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, and it between the Yankees and Dodgers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ohtani.
It's just Ohtani.
Right.
I'm actually seeing something here. There's a lot of soft contact. Does that not play into the Yankees' favor?
You know, I would say yes, because you have to remember defensively, the way this infield looks, you're talking about Anthony Rizzo, who's the way he's swinging his bat, he's going to play first base in this series, whether you guys like it or not. That bat's going to be playing in the World Series, and rightfully so. But you've got to live with his flaws as well. Well, if players outside of Ohtani aren't necessarily hitting rockets through the infield, but the numbers suggest that, that is going to help your infield play better. It will. So I don't know. In theory, you like the idea. I don't love just saying, well, they don't hit the ball as hard as we do, so that just must mean something great. I think it's a little overstated, but it's got to mean something. So we'll take it, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't tell if this is just the postseason or not, but I don't think it's the postseason, because why would Judge's be like, why would his expected batting average be 315? You're really expecting a lot then. Yeah, I just found this really interesting. Like, I was looking at the bad ball profile, the plate discipline, whiff percentage. Teoscar Hernandez is swinging for the fences, it looks like, almost every time. He has a 34 whiff percentage. That's on the level of Stanton. So, like, him and Stanton are just, yeah. Judge is at 30.7. Ohtani's at 29.8. Mookie is at 14.9. Mookie Betts, to me, and obviously, like, Tommy Edman is the obvious answer of the X factor. He's been huge for them. I told you he'd be a good fit in New York during the trade deadline. They were interested in him.
Yeah.
But the thing about Mookie Betts is he is made for the postseason because his pitch selection, he's very picky. He's not swinging at just anything. And so I think his patience, kind of counteracts Alex Verdugo, but also he's better than Alex Verdugo in every way. So he's
better than him at everything. Bowling, literally
breathing, eating.
There is not any podcasting. This dude, Mookie Betts, is good at literally everything. It's incredible. And guys, you need to remember something. You don't need to, maybe you can hate him, but you don't have to pretend that everyone stinks that you play. Okay. That's not how sports have to go. You can play a team and say, man, Mookie Betts is great. Hernandez, great. Ohtani, spectacular. He could be the face of Major League Baseball. You can acknowledge all these things and still do something about it. You don't need to just bow down to great players and just be like, well, we don't deserve to be here. You guys really think the New York Yankees are showing up to this series going, yeah, these are some great players. I don't know what we're going to do. You think the Dodgers are going to do that? They're not. They're not going to look at us and be like, this is the Yankees, we're going to lay down. No, they're here to win a title. Remember, guys, the narrative. Ohtani wants to win right away. You guys think he wants to drag this on? Because you're talking about a Dodgers team. If you don't win the World Series this year and you show up next year, people are going to be talking about, oh, Dave Roberts, you can't win a title with Ohtani. You go into year 3. They're trying to get this out the way right away. It makes a lot of sense. They're trying to come take this thing, and rightfully so. Go do that. We're going to try to do the exact same thing, and we're obviously just going to acknowledge everything they're great at and what we can do to stop that. So you saw a Dodgers team in general that can out-hit a lot of their problems. Injuries are a factor in this series, whether or not people want to acknowledge that or give you credit if it does matter long-term. But as far as I'm concerned, the New York Yankees, and Jake, remember when this show started, I actually brought up a point that Yamamoto is a player that has been 2 different pitchers, whether he's pitching at Dodger Stadium or he's on the road. And I'm going to read you his numbers, right? So this is absent of opinion. Yamamoto on the road, this is during the regular season, his ERA 2.06, 50 strikeouts in 8 appearances. At home at Dodger Stadium, his ERA 3.88 in 10 appearances. Those are 2 different pitchers. It's just completely different. Now, 388 that's not chopped liver. It's still a good arm in this league. Like, we have some pitchers on our team that's ERA for the season was 4, and yet we would describe their season as pretty solid. So he's absolutely solid whether he's pitching at home or on the road, but those numbers are different. So let me say this. In my opinion, the game the Yankees need to be circling immediately is game number 1. If Yamamoto, if they tee him up to pitch game 1, you need to be out there going for blood in game 1, because I've counted. He's going to pitch game 5 at Yankee Stadium, where you should expect him to be lights out. Don't expect him to be anything else. So go out there and beat him where he's beatable. And that happens to be the first game of the series. So if you thought we didn't have to hit the ground running, think again.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And it's not really shocking to me because these two played each other. Let's not forget. I mean, Yamamoto went up against the Yankees, and he, I believe, went 7 strong, I want to say 2 hits given up.
Is that what it was?
I'm pretty sure he didn't get the win.
Which doesn't matter. It's about how you pitch, and if you pitch well, expect to see that version of him. I mean, he's going to be good. We were looking to offer this player $300 million for a reason. The Dodgers won that negotiation. Whether or not you guys want to blame what do they call it? The Ohtani deferred contract and all that stuff as to the reason they got Yamamoto. It seemed like he wanted to pitch at Dodger Stadium. He wanted to be a Dodger, and totally understandable. It's a great franchise. At this point, I mean, they've got all of Japan now rooting for them. So this is going to be fun. I think Dodgers fans are excited for this. We're excited for this. And these are 2 starving franchises, which is interesting because the Dodgers just won a World Series 4 years ago. So yeah, I think we're more hungry though. I will tell you that.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Looking back at that game, by the way, 2-1, that went in 11 innings. The Yankees' only run, by the way, was a unearned run because it happened in the 11th inning. It was because it was a ghost runner. Judge had a single to left, and that was the game that went 0-0 into the 11th inning.
My heart can't take a World Series game like that. So I'm here to tell you right now, if we lose a game, fine. Please don't take me into extra innings of a 0-0 game. I will be having heart palpitations. I will not survive.
Oh my God. Look at these pitchers. Dude, this is crazy. So shout out Jalen Sestero for the donation. Appreciate you.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Cody Poteet started 4 2/3, 2 hits given up, 3 walks, a strikeout, right? He comes out. Victor Gonzalez, former Dodger, traded to the Yankees.
Yep.
Pitches 2 1/3, scoreless. Michael Tonkin. I still don't know why they cut him. I have no idea. I think they could have used him, but an inning and 2/3, 1 hit, no earned runs. Caleb Ferguson, also from the Dodgers. He pitched an inning, scoreless, a strikeout. Clay Holmes pitched an inning, scoreless. Ian Hamilton is actually the one that gave up the earned run that cost him the game. And then they put in Dennis Santana. So think about, this is actually really kind of funny because this game is from June. And I mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 7 pitchers that pitched in that first game against the Dodgers, the 11-inning game. 5 of the 7 didn't even make this roster. And some of them are not even on the 40-man roster.
And you mentioned before, Juan Soto wasn't on that roster either. He didn't play.
Oh, no, this is the lineup. This is the lineup that we had. Volpe leading off. Verdugo was batting second. Oh, my. I forgot about this. Kind of. Like, I remember we went over it and all that. But Volpe, Verdugo, Judge, Stanton, Rizzo, Torres, LeMahieu, Grisham, Trevino.
I mean, it's just 9-day difference. 2 different teams. Which, by the way, this Yankees team, I mean, you said Verdugo was hitting second in that lineup, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, just 2 different players. Obviously, the way, if you're performing in a certain fashion, you can justify putting someone in the 2 spot. Maybe in that position you couldn't. But I will say, this Yankees team, this was an up and down season. And I mean, look at this roster. Anthony Volpe. There were conversations about him, the opening, really during spring training. Oh, he's flattening out his swing. It's going to be great. He's not going to be Jeter, but something in between would be spectacular. Then we went about 3 months where he didn't even look like a big leaguer. Then all of a sudden we're like, okay, get him out of the leadoff spot. Then he goes down. Now he's making an impact in the postseason, right? Alex Verdugo, absolutely none of us would have told you he's playing these games. Like he's a shoe-in into the starting rotation, in the starting lineup. We would have never told you guys that. Never. We would have thought Jason Dominguez. Remember we said that the opening series? Yeah, we think Jason Dominguez might play. He is not even close to touching them. Matter of fact, our manager's like, yeah, it's actually an easy choice. Yeah. So there's so much happening. How often do you see a team win a World Series where there's just question marks? All the roles are changing. Jazz Chisholm's all of a sudden hitting 5th for your team, hitting 4th in the championship series, and people are screaming that he needs a day off. I mean, dude, this team is, I mean, if you're losing your hair already, this is not the team that you want to be cheering for. I mean, if Dodgers fans are here, and I see that there are a lot of Dodgers fans in our chat, and we appreciate them being here, but if you guys think your baseball is stressful, I'm here to tell you right now, you guys don't know stress. The way we play baseball games, we refuse to play those games that I've watched the Dodgers in the championship series, and I've been watching them all year. They have some laughers. Well, they'll go out and just pepper 12 runs, win 12-3, right? Their clincher wasn't too difficult. The Yankees make difficult is our middle name. We are going to make a close game out of anything, and it's going to make for a stressful series for everybody. And I see my mom in the chat already. She is going to be essentially coaching me mentally through this whole series. So yeah, we'll be talking through it.
You're taking PR classes with your mom. It's okay, Gary. Don't go there.
Yeah, it is stressful, and a large part of that is due to what your offense does early in the game. If your offense gets, and you saw it in the championship series for the Yankees, you got a ball hit, extra base hit, we get thrown out at the plate, right? Our third base coach sends Gleyber Torres, he gets hosed, right? And then if he wasn't sent, how many people thought, okay, 3rd and 2nd, nobody out? Did you expect us to just hit a 2-run single, or were we probably going to strike out our first at bat and then all pray for a sac fly and be like, man, we should have scored more there? Cashing in on those situations early in games changed the entire complexion of the feeling of the game. The Dodgers do a better job at that aspect of the game. So Jalen wants to know, who we think's going to win this series, who could be the MVP. He sees it being a 6-game series. Guys, I probably will tell you, if Aaron Judge is what he is paid to do, what he was all year, in my opinion, I think he's going to be the MVP if we win the World Series. I think now's his moment. Other players have bought him enough time. He's that level of a player where he can take control of a series. He just hasn't done that yet. And then on the inverse of that, I mean, I'm not going with any other name other than Shohei Ohtani, right? For the Dodgers. I think he's probably the most talented player on the field. This dude is stealing 40, 50 bags. He's just spectacular in every way possible. There's no other way to describe him, right? He's the most talented baseball player. He's not from this planet. So if the Yankees want to win, he wants to know, what's our advantage? Our advantage is our starting rotation. The Dodgers don't have a starting rotation to match that, but that doesn't mean it matters. You got to perform. Garrett Cole, you're on the roster making a lot of money, and there's nothing wrong with making a lot of money. You do it for a reason. Go out and perform like it, right? Carlos Rodon, we give him a $162 million contract. We didn't do it for no reason. We did it because he's very talented. 2 starts ago, we got 30 whiffs. Go do that in the World Series. That'll help us win. There, Jalen is our advantage, and those things have to come to play or you don't win. And on the inverse, again, if the Dodgers don't hit the way that they've hit over the course of the postseason, if Ohtani doesn't hit with guys on base, I told you, he's hitting over 800 with guys on base. There's video game numbers. If that doesn't continue, if Edman doesn't continue, this series is much more difficult than they want it to be. So there's a lot riding on this World Series, a lot of pressure, and I can't even tell you, like I said before, I think the Yankees are winning this on the road, Game 7 at Dodger Stadium, and I'm going to try to get there. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I might have to get in a suitcase. We'll see.
All right. I'm going to agree with you because initially I was like Juan Soto.
Okay.
But I think Judge knows. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
I got bailed out a little bit. This is it. He can change everyone's opinion about his postseason woes in one game, honestly. If he has one game and it decides, like game 7, for instance. But I look at those splits, and we were just talking about last night. Splits are weird, but they exist for a reason. It's one of those things, like, you and I don't believe in superstition, but clearly there's some weird aura power out there. That's why Mookie Betts can't hit against the Mariners. Like, it doesn't make sense. There's no reason why he can't hit against the Mariners. Like, that's logical. You can't say, oh yeah, their pitching's great. He doesn't see their new pitching. He was bad against their old pitching. So, like, what's happening? So Judge has 8 home runs in 10 games against the Dodgers. And Judge in that series, the series earlier this year, had 3 home runs. Actually, I think he had 4. So, yes. So he hit 2 home runs in that meaningless 11-3 game. But, oh no, he hit 3. So he had 2 in that game. And then the game that they beat the Dodgers, the final game, 6-4. That was the game that Hill actually looked pretty solid against them. And they saw Luke Weaver. He went 2 innings. But Judge hit a go-ahead. Well, it was an insurance home run in the 8th. Actually, you'll remember this. So they start off the game. Cabrera hits a home run. Let me take you back, because it was Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. So, of course, you're probably going to remember. Those things stand out for, I mean, I'll just say just the announcing alone sometimes. Oh, and your favorite. Yeah, let's interview the player while he's in the outfield playing the game.
Dumbest.
That was the game. Remember when they interviewed, they had Verdugo and his chains were flopping back and hitting the mic.
Do you know who my favorite player is because of this? Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks. They walked up to him on air and said, "Hey, Corbin." And Corbin Carroll's a nice dude. Would you like to do an interview for us? We'd love to interview you on ESPN. No. No, I wouldn't. And some people were like, "Can you believe what a jerk?" He's not a jerk. He's at work. He doesn't want to do an interview. And matter of fact, I don't want to hear what Aaron Judge has to say while he's standing in the outfield. Yeah. I don't want to hear that. Maybe you guys are interested in that stuff. I am not.
Can you imagine that?
I don't need split screen interviews. I don't need them to pop it over to the manager and be like, "Hey, Rick, what do you think? Aaron Judge coming up here. Juan Soto's coming up, and Anthony Rizzo. Well, we just got to make our pitches, and obviously there's a lot riding on this inning, so we're just gonna hang with him and see how he's doing." There's not interesting at all. There's nothing there. So
Bob
if you
from
guys
finance just sticking a mic in his face, be like, "What are you doing?" Currently I'm making a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I think some broadcasts think that, like, they're what make it entertaining. But in actuality, the theater of the matchups, and this is why Yankees-Dodgers, specifically Dodgers, I wanted the Dodgers to be here. Not because I thought they're just this weak opponent. No, I think this is best for the game of baseball. You've got Dodgers fans watching a Yankees podcast, specifically Yankees podcast, and some of them probably think this is probably a baseball podcast, not just Yankees. No, this is a Yankees podcast. It is 2:12 in the morning Eastern time, and they're watching this. They're probably on the West Coast.
Me. This is me in a nutshell.
Right. It is 11:15 Pacific. Yeah. It's late, right? And yet they're here on a Yankee show vouching for why they think their team is going to win the World Series. We're happy about it. Good. This is what we want out of the game of baseball. We want it to be fiery. We want people to be fierce. We want people to be heated, because that means ratings. Game 1's ratings, I mean, I have no idea what they're going to look like. I believe 9 million people on average watch that Dodgers-Rangers. No, not Dodgers-Rangers. Diamondbacks-Rangers series, World Series last year. I know people were clapping like seals for that series, but then it started and then they didn't watch it.
I know. It's like I said to start. But yeah, in that game though, Cabrera hits a home run. Judge doubles and scores Verdugo. Yankees are up 2-0, right? Then Mookie Betts doubles.
Okay.
He scores 2. So it's 2-2. Then Teoscar Hernandez, remember when he hit the home run? and he just was like,
oh yes, I do remember this.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
So
I
then
do
he
remember
hits
it.
the home run, and do you
Mhm.
know who hit the next home run for the Yankees? Hit a 3-run shot.
Hold on a second here. Who hit a 3-run shot? Was it? Give me a sec.
He's not going to get it. I'm telling you. Don't say in the comments.
Was it Alex Verdugo?
Oh no, you got
Trent
wrong.
Grisham.
Trent
Oh my
Grisham,
god.
yeah, well,
I didn't look.
ugly,
I wasn't going to cheat. Yeah,
the
I wasn't going
ugly
to cheat that
swing,
situation.
you know, like the hat,
That's
like
right.
it looks like he has no follow through. He hits the ball and it just like dies.
That's right, because you were blowing me up. You were texting me
Yeah.
during this, and because remember I told you, I was like, yeah, Trent Grisham. You're like, why does he even hit? I said, because on some random moment he'll hit a 3-run jack, and you're like,
I was like, oh
he's
my god,
yeah.
Because that series, like, I cover the LA Rams for those Dodgers fans out there that, you know, aren't here from that. I cover the LA Rams. So I hear about your Dodgers all the time. I've been courted by my Rams audience to be a Dodger fan my whole existence as a content creator. So I know who the Dodgers are. So that series had a little extra juice for me. And when I found out Juan Soto wasn't going to play, I was devastated. And I understood it was June baseball. I was fully aware of that, totally aware of that. But good God, man, when Grisham hit that home run, I was like, let's freaking go. And then, of course, you know, the Dodgers started inching up, and then that's when Judge hit that home run. And yeah. And I just think, I don't know, the Dodgers just are that team. Remember when they wore those ugly all black uniforms? The Yankees did?
Yeah.
I actually
we've worn those a few times though. We've worn those a couple times.
No. That was, they only wore those against the Dodgers. Those
You're
all
talking about
black
the all
ones.
black? I thought, what did we wear then when we went and played in the cornfields? Were we in like gray, like ugly grays?
It was kind of like that's where they got the idea to get rid of the piping on the road uniforms. They wore the old school road.
Oh, well,
Now
that's probably a pretty good idea. That's not
it
bad.
worked. And now people are going to say, well, see, once we switch to the old school roads, World Series.
So they're superstitious, is
yeah,
what you're telling me. Okay.
I think they are. So cool story about this. So when the Dodgers played the Yankees and they were wearing the all black uniforms, I was dying on the couch at this lake house that my parents rented. I actually was nauseous, and I blame it on the black uniforms. Like, I was just throwing up like crazy. And I'm like, I don't know how I got sick, but the black uniforms were there on the TV.
Do you think the jerseys got you sick?
I think the jerseys got me sick. So hopefully, and by the way, this is the best uniform aesthetic matchup that you could have had. These are the two best uniforms in the game. I don't care what anyone says. Truthfully, the Dodgers uniforms are incredible. I like
their traditional uniforms. I think those are great. I will tell you, the only jersey I will say I do objectively like better than the Dodgers or anything that they have. I love the blue. I think Philadelphia's powder blues are
they're pretty nice.
Those are nasty. Yeah,
I
those
like
are nasty.
the old school Devil Rays ones with the Devil Rays. I like that. The White Sox with the socks. Ooh, I like those too. And the Pirates. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of good. The old school A's uniforms. Okay, we can go down that rabbit hole. But the point is, right now, currently, I love the aesthetic of the Dodgers and Yankees uniforms. I think, you know, we weren't going to talk about uniforms that much, but that's really cool. I love the red number. I've always loved the red number for the Dodgers. I think they do it right.
It's nice. Yeah.
It's kind of like how we use red in our thumbnails, like for the last like word, just because I don't know. It's just like, I think it looks cool.
Yeah.
But,
you know what is weird though about the Dodgers franchise is like the players that have played on the respected teams after my dad, right? In that exact jersey number, because my dad's playing in LA, and you're talking about, and for those of you who are old enough to have watched that, you're talking about the year 2000, right? 2001, 2002. And it's like, well, I don't know, like number 10. And then all of a sudden it went to Justin Turner, and at least Justin Turner did something with it. Like he had a great Dodgers career. I know he was with the Mets for a little bit there, but he really figured it out in LA. So that was pretty cool. And then obviously you had Brett Gardner wearing 11 after my dad. So yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting because now I see people wearing number 11 walking around Yankee Stadium, and they're like Anthony Volpe. I'm like, wow, This is
No, there are a lot of people that are wearing it to rep Gary. You have a lot. Your dad has a lot of fans. Let's be real here.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know, right? Because technically speaking, if you're like a real Yankees fan that is trying to do it the right way, you're not going to put a last name on the back of that jersey. Like that jersey right there, for all intents and purposes, people probably think that that's an Anthony Volpe jersey. Maybe not because like my name, but if I wasn't who I was, would you assume that this was Brett Gardner, or would you say it's Volpe or my dad?
I would say it's Gary Sheffield.
Would you really?
Yeah. When
So
I
you
see
see
11, I think
number 11, you think Gary Sheffield for sure.
Yeah, and when I see 13, I think of A-Rod. I don't think of Joey Gallo.
I'm going to go ahead and guess that the average person, when they see pinstripes number 11, just because of length of tenure, not necessarily talent or performance, they're thinking of Brett Gardner. That's just my take on it. I just think Brett Gardner he's very liked. I'm not sure where the hell he went. He's just fishing. Haven't seen him not once.
Oh, no.
He retired.
He's never coming back. He's off.
We'll see you guys. By the way, Jalen wants to know our rotation, so I think we can rein it back into the series. And we have to remember, both of these teams are going to be having the next 4 full days to rest for the World Series, playing that Friday on the 25th. So they're going to get a chance to essentially handpick who everyone wants to pitch, and he wants to know what our rotation is going to look like. Garrett Cole's obviously day 1 starter, no question about that. And I'm going to go ahead and say Rodon is pitching game 2. I don't think they play around with it based on how he pitched this last series. You roll with him. He pitches better at home. Carlos Rodon, game 2. And then where do we go from there? Jake, what are you thinking?
I kind of like, where I would go, because I think I would go with 5 rotation. I would.
Okay.
But I don't think they're going to do that. I just don't. I think it's Cole, Rodon. I think the third game, because it'll be at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be Cortez. I think Cortez pitches game 3. I think Clark pitches game 4.
Okay. Oh, that's my fault. Okay, so that's my fault. My brain immediately thought we won a ton of games. We're playing at home. We are not. So Rodon just pitching that game on the road, game 2. So you're saying that first game back at Yankee Stadium, you're pitching Nestor Cortez.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what are you doing after that?
Clark is what I think
agree.
they're going to do. And then I think Hill's going to go to the bullpen, because I think there were some things that they liked about Hill in his first start. Okay. But he has not pitched enough to be ready for the World Series, in my opinion. He just hasn't.
I agree with that.
So I would say you put him in the bullpen, and now it's not a demotion, because he's a weapon out of the bullpen, and he gives you something. And to me, like, he had some success against the Dodgers. He could be your double-barreled action. If you wanted to do, Clark Schmidt's probably not going length, if we're being honest. They're going to be cautious with him. So if you go 4 2/3 with Clark, and then the rest is, Hill, and then you move to your closer in Luke Weaver in the 9th. I mean, okay, I think that's pretty good. I think Strowman's going to get an opportunity as well, but I just think that I think they go with 4. And if they were to go with 3, then I think it would be Cole, Rodon, and I think they go with Nestor, and I think Clark and Hill would go to the bullpen.
Okay, so I agree with what you're saying about Hill, and I want to circle his name, okay? Because this is a pitcher who pitched incredibly well for an extended period of time in the regular season. He was great. He almost started the All-Star game, and obviously Skubal 100% earned that right. But I will say this. When you talk about him not having necessarily, he hasn't pitched enough to prove that he should be out there in the World Series. He was fine, but he wasn't excellent. I agree with that. But I want to be careful here, because you have to remember he didn't pitch in the division series either. So part of me feels like if you move Luis Hill to the bullpen and you're feeling like, well, he doesn't necessarily have the control that Clark Schmidt has, and I absolutely would agree with that. Well, isn't control even more important when you're talking about a guy coming out the bullpen? Is there anything worse than when you see a man on first base with 2 outs and you're saying, okay, we're bringing this right-hander out the bullpen for the Dodgers' sake, The Dodgers, a couple of Dodgers fans earlier were saying, we think Gratterall is going to return for the World Series. Is there anything worse if Gratterall shows up with a man on first base and he walks back-to-back guys on 8 pitches? Is there anything worse than that? In my opinion, there is not, right? Luis Gil is one of those guys. He might throw 8 straight balls and then he throws an immaculate inning. There are a ton of highs and lows. And I've told you before, Jake, when guys lose control very quickly, I'd rather have them start because there's less pressure on balls and strikes as opposed to facing potentially 3 hitters and you're done. Strikes are at a premium out the bullpen, and I just don't know if I trust Luis Gil. It's part of the reason why I said he shouldn't be the closer of this team a couple months ago. So I agree Gil probably shouldn't start a World Series game for the reason that you provided, but I just don't know if it makes things better right down the stretch.
I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying that's what I think they would do. I'd go with a 5-man rotation straight up.
Okay.
I would because...
Wait, who was that 5th man? Because you mentioned...
Well, Gil.
So you would pitch Gil as a starter?
I'd pitch Gil game 5, yeah.
Wow.
The Yankees have more of a rotation than most teams that would have that.
Absolutely.
In the World Series. You don't get this level of health. You just don't. And the Yankees dealt with their health issues and they still won the AL East. This is what isn't talked about nearly enough. The Yankees had injuries. They just overcame them, and they got lucky that those injuries weren't season long. They went through like 2 months without Garrett Cole. They went through 2 months without Garrett Cole, and well, even more than 2 months, I think, right?
I just don't think I can go 5-man, and I'll tell you why. Think about it this way. The Yankees can't win the World Series if Garrett Cole isn't Garrett Cole in this series, correct?
No, I agree.
So if Garrett Cole, let's just project, right? Let's pretend Garrett Cole does exactly what we need him to do, dominates game 1, right? We pay him a lot of money to do it, and he does exactly that. We steal game 1, right? Hypothetical. Now you project down the road in a series, and you're going with a 5-man rotation. In my opinion, if I just saw that out of Garrett Cole, I'm finding a way to get him back out on the mound as soon as possible. And I understand the concept of it's better for the health of each pitcher to have a 5-man rotation. That is completely understandable. But sometimes when you're talking about the potential of going up 3-1 in a series or if you're tied 2-2 in a series for both sides, you want your best arm out there. And I just don't think Luis Gil is even close to one of the Yankees' best arms at the moment. So I just don't know at that spot in the series where that essentially could just swing momentum one way or the other. I'm probably skipping that 5th guy, regardless of who they were. And I'm resetting to a Garrett Cole who already pitched well.
So Luis Gil is pretty much the same guy, whether he's at home or on the road, to be fair. So I think
that's a good thing.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, I think he's a little bit better on the road. So yeah, his numbers are a little bit better on the road, like not tons. It's interesting because what Gil are you going to get? And also, do you look at that game against Cleveland is like, oh, he got his feet wet. So now I expect better moving forward. Or do you look at it like he's not ready for the moment? This isn't going to work out because, that Pirates game, that A's game, he gave up 10 runs in those 2 games. He gave up 4 home runs against the Pirates to close out his season. Before that, though, Seattle, Kansas City, and Chicago, he gave up 2 runs total. And that was 16 innings of work. So what is Luis Gil right now? Can you trust him? I think it's harder. It's not an easy decision. And I don't think there's a wrong answer. I'm just saying I think I would go with the 5. I would. But there's not a wrong answer. And by the way, the reason I go with a 5 is because I anticipate the Yankees are definitely going to steal one of those games in LA. I do.
I agree with that. I don't think the Dodgers
they win game 1
in LA. Okay.
No, I think they win game 1. This is all right. Let's talk about that to wrap it up. Right. So the Yankees and Dodgers, they're going to start off in LA. I have the Yankees in 6. I think the Yankees win game 1. I think Rodon has a valiant effort, but they fall at the end in game 2. So it's 1-1 going back to the stadium. I think the Yankees win game 3. I think the Dodgers win game 4. I think the Yankees win game 5. So where does that put you? Well, the Yankees won game 1, game 3, and game 5. The Dodgers won game 2 and game 4. So now it's 3-2. So I think the Yankees are going to win game 6 in LA. That's how I see it.
Okay. So the only disagreement we had was how the starting rotation is going to go. I'm not using a 5-man rotation. I'm playing the Los Angeles Dodgers. I don't play with my food. I'm not throwing Luis Hill up against the Dodgers. I think he's not chopped liver. He's a good pitcher. He has the capabilities to do something against the Dodgers. There's no question about that. There's been worse pitchers that have pitched well against the Dodgers this year. But if I have the opportunity and Garrett Cole tells me, yeah, I'm ready to go, let's go, then I'm flipping that rotation around. I just want to see Garrett Cole sooner rather than later. And that also means Rodon is being seen sooner rather than later as well, who pitched really well in the previous series. So here's what I'm going with this series. Game 1, Yamamoto, I mentioned those numbers at home. He's not the same pitcher at Dodger Stadium as he is on the road. He is sensational. And I expect him to be sensational in that game 5 on the road. So I'm going to say we steal game 1. Game 2 is a loss. We're splitting going back to Yankee Stadium, right? Game 3 is a win. Game 4 is a loss. And I had game 5 as a loss. So I think I had the Yankees winning in 7. But in general, I know for a fact the only game I think is very tough in terms of matchup for this Yankees team is that game 5, because you're talking about now we're making decisions. The Yankees, you just mentioned what you would do. You're talking about Hill. You're talking about a lot of those guys, right? Nestor Cortez. Well, the Yankees are going to have to go with somebody, and that means you're telling another player no, right? So there's a lot weighing on the Yankees towards the middle of that series. So I think the Dodgers are going to play incredibly well at this portion of the series. And like I told you before, it's not going to be easy. Some people wrote Yankees in 5, Yankees in 6. No, I think if you're going to win a World Series, this is going to go 7 games. I actually thought that Mets series was going to go 7, but the Dodgers took care of business. So yeah, I'm going Yankees in 7. They're going to win on the road. It's going to get crazy in that game 7. You might see Cole on short rest. You're going to see a lot of pitchers touch that mound.
We're going to see another Mr. November in November 1st. And
the weather should be good in LA November 2nd. So at least we've got that going for us.
Yeah. I think it ends November 1st. What day is that? Are they going to tell me or no? Just November 1st? Okay. They're not going to tell me.
It is a Friday.
Oh, it's dude. It's going to end on a Friday night. We will be partying on the show. I'm telling you.
I love how many Dodgers fans. Do you see how many Dodgers fans are here?
Yes. This is what's going to happen. We're going to have a lot of Dodgers fans watching this stuff. Keep in mind, I have that connection with the LA stuff, but also there are Dodgers fans I've never seen before. So like we're attracting attention from other areas, and I'm okay with that. I love that. I will call that one dude out that said the Dodgers have given the Yankees the most losses in World Series history. The last thing I'm doing as a Dodgers fan is bringing that up because the Yankees lead the series 8-3 all time.
Yeah, who cares about that? I mean, they tell us all the time, stop counting World Series titles, stop saying 27 championships, and then you're talking about games that were played in the 50s again. So if we're either going to talk about that stuff or we are not. I choose not to talk about it. I choose to talk about what's currently on the field. And by the way, I see our boy Alex in the comment section. He says, if Ohtani can pitch, what game do you think we see him on the mound? I told you before, Jake, I believe Shohei Ohtani is in play to pitch in the World Series. Very similar to what you saw out of the World Baseball Classic. This is a one-time thing. He's going to warm up and pitch maybe to what you saw out of that Trout at bat. If you're going to see a Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, go 2, 3, 4 in our lineup, you might see Ohtani. He might say, give me the ball. It's winning time.
He's close enough, right?
He's close enough. He didn't shy away from the ball in the World Baseball Classic. I think people really underrate the pressure, especially that the Japanese players put on an emphasis on that series. It was huge. Everyone was watching. He didn't shy away. I don't expect him to shy away again. It's just a matter of if the Dodgers allow him to. but I know he's going to try. So it's good theater.
I like that. I mean, we'll see if I like that. If that ends up being the deciding factor, then whatever. But yeah, I think this has been a lot of fun. We were actually deciding whether or not to go live tonight or tomorrow, and we have over 1,400 people, Gary. What did I say? Yeah, we'll have like 300.
Yeah, I mean, we had about this last night, but I don't know. I don't think we anticipated Dodgers fans. Well, we know Dodgers fans are probably awake right now, so that makes a lot of sense. That's something
though
probably underrated. It is good.
This is very good.
We're going to be over 2,000 though. Post game after a World Series game, it'll be over 2,000. So we're going to have a good time. So yeah, Dodgers fans that are in the chat currently, don't get too comfortable. Our Yankees fans are going to show up. It's 2 in the morning, almost 3 in the morning Eastern time. So yeah, our boys will show up.
Hey, also, anyone who is in the comment section right now who's been, active, we appreciate you. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you are on YouTube right now. We're at 3,867 subscribers, trying to get to 4,000 by the end of the year. So please do us a favor and do that. We'll be having all sorts of stuff during the winter meetings, some interesting content there that you'll probably want to check out even after this. So definitely be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, also known as the like button, if you haven't done that for this specific video on YouTube. If you're on Twitter and you're watching this, head on over to YouTube. We are live. You can just check on us really quick. Hit that subscribe button on our channel. You'll never miss another live stream, video, what have you. But it's been fun, man. And we do not, if you're new here, and I know there are a lot of Dodgers fans that are new here. If you're new here, we do this thing that kind of sets us apart from other podcasts because no one else does this, I don't think. We like to see who's been around the whole time, who's stuck it out, who's made it to this point. And we like giving out movie recommendations or just movies that are kind of puns of a situation. Like yesterday, I did Bug's Life. Reason being, it had to do with the midges, right? The Yankees finally broke that curse thing, okay? They beat them in the ALDS, and I'm not going to lie. Like, that was fulfilling. But to beat them to go to the World Series felt like, okay, it's over. Jobber Chamberlain, you have been... vengeance has been done. Everything's good. But yeah. So Gary,
I've got a great movie.
Okay, I was gonna ask, do you have a movie for us?
You may not have seen, because you have to keep in mind we've got Dodgers fans. True. We've got Dodgers fans in here, and obviously being from Los Angeles, a lot of them. I'm going with one of my favorite movies, which you may not have seen, but it takes place in Los Angeles in the 70s. It is called The Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. Great movie, great flick. So if you were here at the end of this stream, drop The Nice Guys in the comment section. We'll know you were here.
We will know you were here. Nice Guys, comment section. If you're watching after the fact, drop in the comment section. It's been fun. We really appreciate you guys. We were going to go live even if there was nobody here, because this is also just our way of recording as well. But it's a lot better when there are a lot of people here. So appreciate you, and we'll see you guys soon.
And like this video.